Have you ever used an assessment that worked perfectly in one class, but then just completely bombed in another? Yeah, it happens. But the answer isn't about finding some magical right test. It's actually about a really powerful shift in how we think. Today, we're going to explore how visualizing your own unique classroom is the real key to creating assessments that actually work. So let's just dive right in with the big question that every single educator has to wrestle with. Is there really such a thing as a one-size-fits-all test? A magic bullet that can work for every student, in every school, for every subject? I think we all know, deep down, the answer is a big no way. The reality is, just grabbing a tool that someone else uses and mechanically dropping it into your classroom is almost guaranteed to fall flat. Why? Well, because your classroom is a living, breathing environment. Your students are not the same as the students down the hall. Just copying what someone else does completely ignores that reality.
Okay, so to get away from just copying and pasting, we have to embrace a really core principle. And it's this. Assessment is not something that happens after the learning is done. It's actually woven right into the fabric of the learning process itself. You literally can't separate the two.
So, here's our game plan. We'll touch on why one size fits none. Then, we'll get into something called the visualization framework. From there, we'll break down the 3 key factors you need to picture: the learners, the context, and the contents. And finally, we'll bring it all together to create the full picture. So, what's the solution here? Well, it's not some fancy new app or complicated testing format. It's actually a fundamental shift in your approach, a whole new way of thinking that helps you make the right choice right from the very beginning. And that new approach is all about visualization. Before you even start thinking about multiple choice or essays, the goal is to create a really detailed picture in your mind of all the key pieces of your classroom. That mental picture, that's going to be your guide. This whole process really just boils down to 3 simple but absolutely vital steps. First, you picture your students. Then, you picture the context, the environment. And finally, you picture the contents, the actual subject matter. All right, let's dive into that first and, honestly, most important factor, the learners themselves. This is the absolute heart of this whole process. Who are the actual individuals sitting in your classroom? When we talk about picturing your learners, we're really talking about seeing the whole incredible spectrum of students in today's inclusive classroom. It's never a uniform group, right? You've got students who get things in a snap and others who need more support. You have kids with specific learning needs, some who are differently abled, and a whole range of social and emotional backgrounds. That diversity is a huge strength, but it means our assessments just can't be one note. So here's the crucial takeaway. If your teaching has to be flexible to meet all those different needs, well, then your assessments have to be just as flexible. That's it. Real fairness in assessment isn't about forcing every student into the same rigid box. It's about adapting the tool to fit the student. Okay, so we visualized our students. Now let's add the next layer to our mental picture, the context. It's not just about who you're assessing, it's about where it's all happening. The environment itself plays a massive role. I mean, think about the practical, real-world stuff. How much time do you actually have? How many kids are in the class? Do you have access to computers and good internet? Or are you working with just basic furniture and paper? Even things like having other staff available to help or, believe it or not, the weather can either open up possibilities or totally limit your choices. And finally, let's add the third piece to our visualization, the content itself. What you teach has to directly shape how you assess it. You just can't separate the what from the how. So when we visualize the content, we're thinking about 2 different things. First, there's the sheer amount. Are you assessing one little unit, where a quick oral quiz might do the trick? Or is this a final exam covering an entire course? That needs a much heavier tool. But second, and this is so important, is the nature of the content. Is it about thinking, about feeling, or about physically doing something? And that brings us to the 3 major domains of learning. Are you trying to measure cognitive skills, which is all about thinking and analyzing? Or is it the affective domain, things like their attitudes and feelings? Or maybe it's the psychomotor domain, which is about physical skills, actions, doing things. Each of those requires a completely different type of assessment. And this makes it crystal clear, right? You would never use a multiple choice test to grade a lab experiment, and you wouldn't use a live performance to assess someone's knowledge of historical facts. The subject itself, whether we're talking about science or fine arts, pretty much tells you which kind of tool is going to be the most effective.
So, we've looked at the learners, the context, and the contents. Now let's bring all three of these pieces together to see the complete, powerful picture that this whole visualization process creates.
This is where it all clicks into place. You combine that mental picture of your learners with the picture of your context and the picture of your content. It's only when you hold all three of those images in your mind at the same time that you can start to truly visualize, or as the source material says, picturize, which I kind of love, the perfect assessment tool for your unique situation. So a truly great assessment isn't something you just find in a book or download off a website. It's something you visualize first. It's custom built in your mind to perfectly fit your students, your context, and your content. So the only question left is, what picture are you going to create?